An 8-year-old girl got her hair caught in a machine yesterday. It ripped her scalp off. She was back at work this morning. This is what childhood looked like in 1870. You're about to live through the most brutal workday most people have never heard of. 14 hours in a place so dangerous that 40% of all hospital admissions in Manchester were factory injuries. A place where children as young as 4 crawled beneath 2-ton machines, while they were still running. I'm going to walk you through this day hour by hour. And I need you to be honest with me in the comments. At what point would you have broken? Because I'll tell you right now, by the end of this video, you'll understand why most of these children didn't live past 17. Let's start at 4 a.m. The waking 4 a.m. You don't wake up to an alarm. You wake up to your mother's hand shaking you in total darkness, in a cellar room so damp the walls are dripping. No lights. No heat. Coal costs money you don't have. You share this single room with 6 other people. Your whole family sleeps here, eats here, and your youngest sibling? She's sick again. She's been coughing for 3 weeks. But doctors cost money too, so you just hope. You pull on the same clothes you wore yesterday. And the day before. And the day before that. No shoes, your feet are calloused so thick they might as well be leather. Breakfast is already on the table. And here's where it gets brutal. Your breakfast is something called water porridge. That's oats boiled in water with a pinch of salt. No milk. No sugar. No butter. Just gray, tasteless slop that sits in your stomach like wet cement. You wash it down with tea so weak it's basically hot water, brewed from leaves that have already been used 3 times. This is the most you'll eat until tonight. Your mother doesn't say goodbye. She doesn't say, have a good day. She was up at 2 a.m. listening for coal miners walking past so she could ask them the time. Because if you're late to the mill, you get beaten. And she knows that. But the walk to work? That's where things start getting disturbing. And what happens when you actually get inside the factory? I genuinely debated whether to include that part. The walk 4:30 a.m. The streets of Manchester in 1870 don't look like anything you've seen. Open sewers run down both sides of every road. Human waste. Dead animals. Rotting food. The smell is so bad that visitors from London, and London was disgusting, wrote that Manchester made them physically gag. You've stopped noticing it. Cholera swept through your street last summer. Took 3 children you knew. You try not to think about the fact that you're walking through the same water that killed them. And you're not alone out here. Dozens of children are emerging from the slums. Some are younger than you, 5, 6 years old. Tiny shadows shuffling through the dark toward the mill. Nobody talks. Everyone's too tired, too cold, too hungry. Then you see it. The factory. 5 stories of red brick, a chimney pumping black smoke into a sky that's never blue. The building is so massive it blocks out the stars. And even from 2 streets away you can feel it. That sound. A deep, grinding, rhythmic thunder that vibrates in your chest. Hundreds of machines running every hour of every day. The sound of your childhood being fed into a meat grinder. You're 8 years old. You've worked here for 2 years already. And here's the thing nobody talks about. You were one of the lucky ones. Some children started at 4. Now, what I'm about to describe, the actual work these children did, is the part that genuinely kept me up at night researching this. I need you to really picture this. The machine 5 a.m. to 12 p.m. You clock in at exactly 5 a.m. If you're even 5 minutes late, the overlooker docks 30 minutes from your pay. Some overlookers just beat you instead. They carry leather straps specifically for this. The moment you step inside, 3 things hit you at once. First, the heat. Cotton mills are kept at 80 degrees and humid. It's like walking into someone's mouth. This is deliberate, hot, wet air keeps the cotton threads from snapping. For the cotton, it's perfect. For you, it's suffocating. Second, the noise. I genuinely cannot describe how loud these factories were. Imagine standing next to a jet engine for 14 hours. Workers went deaf. They developed their own sign language because speaking was literally impossible. Third, the air. This is what killed people slowly. Cotton dust. The workers called it the kiss of death. Tiny white fibers floating everywhere, filling your lungs with every breath. It looked almost beautiful in the gaslight, like snow. But it was poison. Within a few years, most workers develop something called bisonosis. Your lungs slowly fill with sight, you start coughing blood, and eventually you just waste away. There was no cure. There was no protection. There were no masks. You just breathed it in and hoped you'd die of something else first. Now, your job. You're a scavenger. The lowest, most dangerous job in the entire mill. Your task is to collect the loose cotton that falls beneath the spinning mules, giant machines with iron carriages that slide back and forth on rails. The cotton underneath is too valuable to waste. But here's the problem: the machines don't stop. So you have to crawl under them, while they're running, sweep up the cotton and get out before the carriage comes back and crushes your skull. You have 4 seconds. 4 seconds to dive under, sweep the cotton into your basket and roll clear. If you're too slow, you die. If you fall asleep, and children did fall asleep, you die. One parliamentary report described it like this: a child would stretch flat on the ground while the threatening mass passed over her dizzy head and trembling body. Many didn't make it. Children lost fingers, hands, arms. Some were scalped. Some were killed. The machines were not stopped for injuries. The machines were never stopped. And somehow, that's not even the worst part of the day. What happens at noon will make you understand why these children had a look in their eyes that visitors described as already dead. The meal that wasn't 12 p.m. No. The bell rings. You get a break. 30 minutes. But you can't leave. You can't go outside. You can't sit down. You eat standing at your machine, watching it, ready to start again the instant the bell rings. Your lunch is a piece of bread your mother packed this morning. It's already covered in cotton dust. You brush off what you can and eat it anyway. The bread is stale, so hard it hurts your teeth. But you're so hungry you'd eat sawdust. And actually, some bread was cut with sawdust to stretch the flour. You try not to think about that. There's a 5-year-old girl who works next to you. A piecer. Her job is to tie the broken threads back together. Her fingers are covered in cuts that never heal because she never stops working long enough to let them close. She doesn't have any food. You give her half your bread. She takes it without saying anything. Her eyes are hollow. She's been working since 4 a.m. She won't leave until 9 p.m. She's 5. And here's something that broke me when I found it. One factory owner calculated that children in his mill walked over 20 miles per day, without ever leaving the building, just pacing back and forth along the machines. 20 miles. They were too exhausted to stand by mid-afternoon. And that's when children started dying. The afternoon shift, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m., was called the killing hours by factory inspectors. What I'm about to tell you is why. The killing hours, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. By 3 p.m. you've been working for 10 hours. Your legs are shaking. Your vision is blurring. Your lungs are burning from the cotton dust. The heat is unbearable and every breath feels like drowning. And the overlooker is watching. He's carrying a leather strap. He paces the floor like a predator, looking for anyone whose eyes drift closed. Anyone whose hands slow down. Anyone who stops for even a second. One child testified to Parliament, "If we were 5 minutes too late, the overlooker would take a strap and beat us till we were black and blue." Another said, "The master started beating me with a stick over the head till it was full of lumps and bled. My head was so bad I could not sleep for a long time, and I have never been a sound sleeper since." They weren't being punished for doing something wrong. They were being punished for being tired. For being human. For being children. The beatings got worse in the afternoon because that's when kids started falling asleep. And when you fall asleep near machinery that doesn't stop, you die. One girl, 9 or 10 years old, fell asleep and her apron strings caught in a drawing frame. It dragged her into the machine and crushed her to death. They stopped the machine for about an hour. Then everyone went back to work. This was documented. This was normal. This was legal. In Manchester in 1840, the average life expectancy for a working-class child was 17 years old. 17. Not because of disease. Not because of accidents. Because the work itself was killing them. At 7 p.m. the bell finally rings. But you need to hear what home looked like for these children. Because surviving the factory was only half the nightmare. The walk home and evening, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. The machines wind down. The thunder fades to silence. You can't feel your legs. Your hands are bleeding. Your lungs are rattling with every breath. You've been awake for 15 hours and you haven't seen sunlight once. Outside the sky is already dark. You walk home through streets that smell like death because they literally contain it. Open sewers. Rotting garbage. The gin shops are open and some children stop there, because penny gin is the only escape they can afford. Home is a cellar room with walls that drip moisture. One room for 7 people. No ventilation. No clean water. The only toilet is a shared privy in the courtyard that serves 40 families. Your mother is making dinner. Soup. And I use that word generously. It's water with a scrap of bacon boiled in it for flavor, some onion, some potato if you're lucky. There's no actual meat, just the ghost of meat. Just enough to remind you what food is supposed to taste like. You eat sitting on the floor. There aren't enough chairs. By 8 p.m. your siblings are already asleep, 3 of them piled on a straw mattress in the corner. You'll join them soon. The bed is damp. The floor is cold. It doesn't matter. You could sleep standing up right now. Your mother looks at your hands but doesn't say anything. What is there to say? Tomorrow you'll wake at 4 a.m. and do this all over again. And the day after. And the day after that. This is your life. This is your childhood. This is the price of cotton. Here's what kills me about all of this. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't secret. Everyone knew. Queen Victoria knew. Parliament knew. The factory owners definitely knew. And for decades they decided the profits were worth it. Over 500,000 children under 15 were working across Britain. In some factories, children made up 50% of the workforce. They were cheaper than adults, about 80% cheaper, and they were small enough to crawl into spaces adults couldn't reach. They weren't employees. They were components. Disposable parts in a machine that printed money. Some children were literally purchased from workhouses. Orphans. Kids whose parents couldn't afford to feed them. Factory owners would pay a few shillings and own that child's labor until they turned 21, if they lived that long. Many didn't. And the few who survived? They were often broken. Deaf from the noise. Coughing blood from the cotton. Stunted in growth because they'd been worked like animals during the years their bodies were supposed to be developing. The Factory Acts eventually came. Slowly. After decades of reformers fighting, children dying, and public outrage building. By the 1870s things were starting to change. By the 1880s school became mandatory. By the early 1900s, this kind of child labor was finally truly illegal. But for the children of 1870? For the kid we followed today? Those reforms came too late. Their childhoods were already gone. Ground up in the machinery. Turned into cotton and profit and progress. The Industrial Revolution built the modern world. And it built it on the backs of children who never got to be children. So here's my question. At what point in this video would you have broken? The 4 a.m. wake up? The 4-second crawl beneath the machine? The 17-hour days? I want to know. Tell me in the comments. And be honest, because I think most of us, including me, wouldn't have lasted a week. If this video made you feel something, hit subscribe. I make videos like this every week, stories from history that don't get told. The uncomfortable ones. The ones that make you look at the world differently. Next week I'm covering something even darker. Make sure you don't miss it. I'll see you then.